a lot of things have changed. Hello, my name is Amanda, but besides that, everything on this channel is going to be different. So I'm going to discuss the who, me, the what, the when, and the why. Not the when, the where. I, we'll get there. We'll get there. So this is a different environment, and I can speak at a different volume because I live by myself again. I'm very, very grateful to have had my family when I needed them. And I'm very grateful to have my own space again so I can yell about stupid shit. But the shit's going to be a little bit less stupid. So let's talk about how I'm changing my content from this to this. Minor shift, right? In terms of fandom, at least. So the name of this channel will be changed from One Person, One Opinion. That was made One Person, One Opinion, One Direction. And I'm going to change the channel name to CateSchisms. That's the best name I could think of that was not already taken. So that comes from the word catechism and the word schism. So schism being a break off from the faith, developing into something else. Catechism just being like the study of Christianity, I believe, not specifically Catholicism. So I was raised Catholic. I very much don't identify with that right now. I'm about, I think I say like ankle to shin deep in paganism right now. I'm not fully committing to that bit, but I do want to focus this channel on my journey through deconstruction because I'm being kind of wishy-washy about it and I'd like to go further in depth about these things. Also, can we talk about this chair and how bisexually I can sit in it? I guess I want to use this video also to cut to the chase about I would love to revisit the One Direction stuff someday, but with Liam being gone, what's the point? Um, well, the point is that it was fun, but I did have like a real point and purpose at the end of the series as well. So let's kind of jump to conclusions. Let's jump to those conclusions. So my first conclusion was a theory that has now been proved incorrect, based off of new information. But I had a conspiracy theory that the album 4 was not named 4 because it was the fourth album, but rather we were setting up for someone to leave the group, but that someone was not Zayn. This is incorrect. It's 100% incorrect. It's got to be. I'm 99.999% sure that that is incorrect because, as I've learned, 5 album deals are actually like pretty common. Like Sabrina Carpenter had a 5 album deal with Disney before she became the illustrious goddess that she is right now. Kesha had notoriously a 5 album deal that Sony would not let her get out of despite working with the co-writer of Rock Me. You remember that fucker? You remember that guy? And as it turns out, it's probably the 5 album deal just kind of makes sense, right? Because Made in the AM was 5th. Then they were like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." And the amount of time with which these 5 albums happened is also insane. So that was another point that I made constantly was like everything about One Direction was rush, 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 rush. And now I do genuinely believe that they were just so fucking tired at that point that they're like, it's the 4th album. What do we call it? Fuck it, 4. Like they were probably this close to calling it almost free. Do you know what I mean? I was also maybe going to make a point about how many songs finished with Harry's voice. So we talked about previously, in the first album particularly, the distribute the take 2. The distribution of solos was not even whatsoever. And Harry famously said in an interview like 10 minutes post One Direction, he's like, I wish I had more solos. Like, sir, sir, Baby of the Boy Band Syndrome, the worst that we've ever seen it. Baby of the Boy Band Syndrome, the worst that we've ever seen it. I want to say I still respect him as an artist, and I also want to say that I have not paid attention to his stuff since his second album. I'm so far behind with solo shit too, so that is another reason we're gonna have to just revisit that some other time. Or maybe never. Maybe never. Maybe I just stop at One Direction stuff if I ever get back to it. Moving forward. The final conclusion I was gonna have for One Direction is that they should never ever get back together. Like ever. But the whole thing about that now is they're definitely not. And they really, really shouldn't. There is, if they really wanted to, there's a respectful way to, if they want, but they shouldn't, right? They shouldn't. And there was no plan in my head where One Direction happened again without Liam. Okay, I was either gonna say like it's all five or it's trash, or if it's gonna be four of them, let's take out Harry because he just like in my humble personal opinion that nobody agrees with, right? I know nothing. Do you remember that? I know nothing. I I was just gonna take it back to, oh my gosh, song on the second album, the the one that was like kind of talking about, what was that one? The R&B ish one. When I'm editing, I'll put it here. But they all sounded like, yeah, this is a direction we could take, and the only one who sounded like not natural there was Harry. And that was my sole argument was one song from album two. Okay, so please do not put too much weight on it. In no version of my head was Liam not part of a One Direction. Can they end the hiatus though? Can they be like cut the bullshit dead ass and be like, hey, we were never gonna get back together. We called it a hiatus because Modest Management's so in love with your money and they really wanted to keep you on the line. But that's the only way I could see this really, really working is number one, this is not going to be a tour event. No more. No more of that with these people together. They got other shit going on. They have families. Okay. Like, we're not doing that. In my humble opinion, in my creative mind, the way this would work, maybe it is filmed, so at least it is accessible to other people, but it is like a one night concert. It is maybe a few hours long. And I'm with an intermission because, like, we got a lot of ground to cover, right? In my head, this concert, this one night event, includes all of the One Direction songs that were written by the guys themselves. Another point that I think I was going to make is like, isn't it interesting how the singles that were released almost never were written by the guys themselves? Then this is like in a period of time where you could like just download, you could buy one song at a time, right? And isn't that interesting that the songs they would put out there that most likely people might buy just that one song, they were almost never written by the five dudes themselves. Almost never. Almost never. Okay, except for that one push for No Control, and we would have talked about that in the four video. But it would be a mix of, it would be, let's call it like a Taylor's version, but One Direction style, of the songs that they wrote that they could still have access and rights to. Therefore, What Makes You Beautiful would not be played, and that's very okay. That is so okay. So much more than okay. And it would also perhaps be a mix of their solo stuff, brought into the concert. The guys covering a couple of Liam songs, right? And then maybe, I don't know, Zayn sings a song by himself, but he also sings one of his songs with the other three singing backup, like harmonies and stuff, That is the one way I could see like a quote One Direction reunion finally coming back together. And these points are so jumbled because I did not, if you could tell by the fact that I'm making eye contact all the time, I didn't write a script for this. I also suspect that they could not use the name One Direction if Simon Cowell was not involved because of a documentary I saw on YouTube Premium produced by Lance Bass called The Boy Band Con. O-Town and NSYNC both had legal troubles holding onto their group name because of their former manager, Lou Pearlman, writing somewhere in the contracts that he was also technically a part of the group. And so they could not use that name unless he was involved. And scumbags all hang out together and share each other's scummy moves. And so I would not be surprised if Simon Cowell pulled the same shit. I also think they might have pulled a petty ass move in 2015 that they could not be called One Direction if Zayn Malik was involved. Um, I could be, again, I know nothing. I could be 100,000% wrong, but these are the conclusions I would have proposed at the end of that series of videos. So that when I go back to it, we can just be fun and listen to the music, because I wrote some funny ass fucking notes about how I now became like very sexually involved and interested in this group, and how just like ride or die I was for this specific album. Editing me, what's good. Um, One final thing about the One Direction. I know I said that 8 times, but I never revealed who my favorite was. Okay, like I spoiled a little bit in my sort of eulogy to Liam that he was indeed my first favorite because he was the first one to look like an adult, and I was fully an adult when I found out One Direction was a thing. But as much love as I talk about for Louis, I was a Nile girl, bitch. I was a Nile girl. Those, I believe, are all of my conclusions to what would have been the One Direction series. Just everybody deserved better, including the fans. Everybody deserves to be treated better. And everybody was traumatized in a very unique way. And I didn't think they ever needed to revisit One Direction again because everybody's grown past that, and all of their solo music is eons better than anything Up All Night ever wanted to be. So that is the end, sort of the One Direction saga. Again, I would love to talk about those again someday. Um, what I'm focusing on now is a change in my spirituality. Um, so the who is me. The what is my Catholicism. I actually got this Bible from my 7th grade religious education teacher. It was either 6th or 7th grade, because they definitely gave these to us after everyone made their confirmation, and like 75% of the class dropped religious education. The handwriting is incredible. And if I can find a way to show you what, without showing you what my old address fully was, um, we can do that. But that's what we're doing. I have a bunch of ideas in a notebook that I don't have. Oh, no, there it is. So let me share a few of the ideas that I have. One of them, because I have a medical card for such a thing in the state where I am, I would like to do a little mini series called A Pair of Bowls and a Parable. So I would have a bowl of something off screen, and then a bowl of something on screen, like ice cream, cereal, pasta, whatever. And we would talk about one of the parables, the parables and a parable. I think that's cute. Now, some other ideas I have in this beautiful notebook. I want to talk about how a lot of Christians actually worship Paul and not Jesus. I want to talk about how Catholics definitely practice witchcraft. I want to talk about my personal biblical trauma, not to be a downer, but it's kind of the whole reason I started this journey in the first place. I want to talk about how a lot of the louder Christians in the United States really genuinely do believe that Satan is more powerful than God. I want to talk about Latin Mass and why it still happens and why it's still fairly popular. I want to talk about Catholic guilt, Catholic guilt, Catholic guilt, rapture culture, the fact that the Bible is not a history book and it was written by a bunch of people that you could just call just some guy. Just some guy. Um, Advent versus the modern, I guess, American. I don't really have perspective of Christmas in other nations, but just the commercialized capitalization of Christmas versus like what Advent's actually about. Oh, okay, okay. Sorry. The last one I was like, what the? Because it says bloodshed for you and for all versus you and for many. So there's like language stuff that I want to talk about specifically in Catholicism too, because we'll get into this further in the intro video, but I was raised so freaking Catholic, okay? I was at church every single Sunday, or at least every single weekend, from birth to 17. Like, once I was able to drive a car, I was able to, like, go sit in a park for an hour and say that I went to mass, you know what I mean? But even then, I was still, like, going to mass multiple times a month for another, like, 7 years. And when you say these things every single week of your life, like, even if you don't believe them, they really sink into, like, your consciousness and who you are as a person. And that's another big thing I want to talk about is, like, do you don't believe this shit. You don't actually believe this. So why are you pretending that you do? So that is what CateSchisms will be. I hope you are looking forward to this path that I'm gonna take. I will figure out. This lighting isn't the worst in the world. I think I do want to put something there though. I just moved here. That's my fan. This is my saving grace. That fan is my salvation. That's a fly swatter. That's a refrigerator. But I think I want to put something here. Maybe like a paint and sip thing or whatever. And then this wall also feels weirdly blank, but I don't know what to do with it because my face is right here. Yeah, I've been here 2 whole weeks, so we'll have some grace there as well. Um, is there anything else I wanted to say? The who, the what, the where is here, the when is soon. I have kind of started a schedule for myself where I believe I will be editing on Wednesdays and ideally posting on Thursdays. I don't want these videos to be terribly long. Um, how much research will I put into them? TBD. I think that's going to depend on the video, and I mean, I'm deconstructing, so I'm going to be speaking a lot from personal experience. And I do have this big ass Bible, so there's a lot that I can pull from. um, I don't know how to end this video, so let's open this Bible up to a random page and pick a random verse and see what some guy wanted us to believe about the Lord Jesus Christ. Um, he was severely wounded, and when the enemy withdrew, 2 of his officials plotted against him and killed him in his bed to avenge the murder of the son of Jehoiada the priest. He was buried in David's city, but not in the royal tombs. Couldn't have said it better myself. What was I saying? Oh my god, I thought that was Frizz, but it's my ponytail palm. And in my head, that is. Oh, there's a cardinal. Sorry. What if I just stared at this cardinal the whole time that I spoke to you? Again, just like fully not looking you in the face. I'm not looking you in the face anyway. You're not here. Anyway,